Hi, Andy Brocklehurst here, and we're going to take a look in this video at the evaluation and the conditionals features of Software Product Magic. Now, these are advanced features, and I want to be really clear on this. If you can't get to grips with these, it doesn't matter. There is still masses of really good software that you can produce using this without ever needing the calculation feature and without ever needing the conditional stuff. What this will enable you to do is to do some calculation and some checking along the way inside your program that's been developed using this. Traditionally, with software builders, you would have to do anything that needed mathematics within a bit of JavaScripting, and then you would modify an HTML file that had JavaScript in it, and you would still be letting it do the mathematics. By using these features, one of the things you can do is calculations within your own software. If you look at the video on the eCalorie software, I did a video with me building that, you will see me using these features, and I suggest you watch that video just to get a feel of how the calculation and things goes. And in this video we're going to expand on that really. So in the other video you would have seen me adding in additional tags using the add a tag and then moving them around. The first thing to really always keep in mind is that tags are processed sequentially. So for example, I want to output at the end of my calorie software what their calorific intake can be. But that is dependent on the result of these formulas, so I have to have that last. Now, this equation will put into the value calc6, into that tag, the result of this equation. And what this is doing is taking whatever value is currently in tag calc1 and dividing it by 100. Now, mathematics in this are fairly straightforward, but at the same time you can do some quite advanced things. You can refer to any tag you've already done and it will substitute, wherever you put a tag reference in, it will substitute in the value that's stored in that tag. Now obviously mathematics needs to use numbers, so if calc1 was equal to Fred, then you're going to get an error. You can basically put any mathematical thing in here. So if I was to put in here, here's a pointless one, if I was to put in here 10 plus 10, then calc6 would be equal to 20. Where it comes in handy is being able to put in other tags. So if I had previously got a tag called calc1, and in that tag I had maybe asked somebody what their age was, and then I wanted to work out how old they'll be in 10 years time, then that could be my equation. Take whatever value they've put into calc1 and add 10 to it and store the result in calc6. Now, other mathematics that you can do. You can use parenthesis, in other words, you can put things in brackets. This is important for order of precedence. If you want to do certain calculations like that, which would be take the value of calc1, add 10 to it, and then multiply it by 10. Without the brackets, it would do that in a different order because it doesn't process left to right, it processes mathematically. I'm not going to get into order of precedence or anything like that. If you've done maths at school, you've used calculators with bracket functions, you'll know you'll know where and when you need brackets. So basically, in this case, because that part is bracketed, it's going to do that first, and then it's going to multiply that by 10, and then it's going to put the answer into calc6. You can do multiple levels of brackets. The mathematical symbols and things you can use here are plus, you can use minus, multiply, which is the asterisk on a conventional keyboard. Division is done with the /, and these are pretty much mathematical standards. You can use ABS. So for example, an absolute value, if I took the absolute value of 100, it would be 100. If I took the absolute value of negative 100, it would be 100. Well, that's what ABS does. It just ignores the sign on the front. So if I had a value and I didn't know if it was positive or negative, but I wanted to know its absolute value, I could do this. And whenever you use a function like ABS, and there are others you can use, I'm just going to tell you what they are. I'll type them in here so you can see. You can use sine, cosine, you can use atan, you can use SQR for the square of a number, you can get the square root of a number. With that one, you can round a value up or down. So if you had a number that had some decimal places, for example, if you had a value in Calc 1 and it could be something like 11.3 or 11.7, you can, but you only want the whole number part of that, you can round it. So you could do something like this. So if it was 11.3, it would round it down to 11. If it was 11.5, it would round it up to 12. And you've also got, I'm not going to explain all of these. Basically, if you know anything about maths, you'll know what these do. Let's talk about conditionals. Now, a conditional equation, let's do a simple one first. So in this case, I've already got a tag called activity. And if I just show you that tag, here it is. And the possible answers, it's a drop-down list. So it can only possibly contain one of these words. So here I'm saying if it's sedentary, then put the value 20 into Calc 2. If it isn't, so if that isn't true, if they've answered anything else, it will put the value 0 into Calc 2. Now I can later on use that in a calculation, or I can use it in another condition. Conditions are always simple. You cannot do multiple conditions. You cannot do parenthesis, bracketed conditions. You can't say if this is true and this is true in a single line. So here we're doing a conditional equation. We're saying if they've answered male to the what sex are you question, then do this formula. And if they've not, so in other words, if it's female, it'll do this one. And here you can see classically how I've used brackets, I've put multiple tags in there, and that's going to generate whatever the answer. So depending on whether male or female, it'll do one of the two formulas and put the answer into Calc 1. So just to recap the rules, this is always only a single condition. And the possible things that you can have here are, you could, well, obviously that is a word, so we can say sex is male. Let me do one, let's just go back and add a tag a moment. We'll call this the test tag. And we'll make that a conditional equation. Okay, let's say we wanted to put a different value in there depending on how something previous would have been answered that was numerical. So what we could do is use age. So let's say we want to know if the person is under 40. So if age is less than 40, if true, then you would do this calculation. If false, you would do that one. So we can use, here we can use equals. We can use less than. We can also do greater than. If they're older than 40, put whatever this equates to into test. Otherwise, put whatever that equates to into test. And the only other one is not equal to, which is represented with the hash symbol. So pretty much a condition is always going to be a tag name of a tag that has already been evaluated, a single character either equals, not equals, less than or greater than, and then a value. If it's numerical, you can use less than, greater than, so on. If it's text, you can only use equals to or not equals to. Okay, so what happens if you want to check two things? Oh, okay, gets interesting. Well, we can achieve it. It takes a little bit of doing, but it can be done. Let's just add in a couple more tags. Call this one test 2, 2 and this one test 3. Okay, let's say, for example, that we want to work out if they are male and over 200 pounds in weight. So we've got the weight already and we've got the sex. Okay, so we want to be able to check both conditions and get a result in here of, let's say, well, in there we want to get the result true, the word true in that there if they are, and the word false if they're not. Okay, so basically we want to try and evaluate two things. So here is how we would achieve it. We would first check the sex and then we're going to check the weight. So let's jump to the end, get our first one, make this a conditional. If sex is male. Okay, if that is true, then into test put the value 1. Otherwise, put the value 0. Okay, next text 2 is going to be a conditional. If their weight is greater than 200, yeah, if that's the case, and in there, take the value test that we've already got and add 1 to it. If false, take the value from test and add nothing to it. Now, let's just look at what we've achieved here. This one will put a 1 or 0 into test depending on if they're male or not. So if they're male, it'll have 1 in it. It now comes in here. If they're over 200 pounds, it's going to add 1 to it. So in other words, we now know that test will be equal to 2 if both conditions are true. If the first condition, if they were male but they were less than 200 pounds, it's going to add nothing to it and test will be equal to 1. If they were female, it would start off as 0, and no matter whether we add 1 or 0 to it, it'll either be equal to 0 or 1. So the only way it can be equal to 2 is if both of those things are true. So test 2 contains a result of a number which will either be 0, 1 or 2. If it's 2, they are both male and over 200 pounds. So finally we can say condition if test 2 is greater than 1, or we could just say is equal to 2. Pretty much the same thing. If true, put the word true in there. If false, put the word false in there, which is what we set out to do. So test 3 will be equal to true only if both things are true. So that is how you can achieve an AND type condition, saying if this is true and this is true, then do this. So that's just an example of how it can be achieved, even though we've got a very rudimentary condition checker in this software. So hopefully that's helped. If it's confused in some way, as I say, please don't worry. The last bit I've just explained there is really for the benefit of those that have done some kind of programming before and know about and/or conditions and want ways of doing them. I just wanted to prove that even with this simple system, you can achieve those things. Please remember that if you can't get to grips with the mathematics and the conditionals and all of that stuff, you're still going to be able to create amazing software with Software Product Magic. In fact, I've recently put out a product which I launched as a WSO, and it did a few $1,000s in its first 48 hours. That product used no conditions, it used no evaluations or anything like that. It was just a very straightforward ask questions and fill in the gaps template, and it was very, very popular. So there's a mass that you can do without these features. If you are of the kind of mind that wants to do more advanced stuff, then you'll find this stuff useful. And that's it. So I hope you find that handy. That's how to use conditions and equations in Software Product Magic, the fastest and easiest way to rapidly create your own profitable software. Thanks for watching.